At the start of 2024, I made some predictions about the Canadian and Fraser Valley real estate markets. So in this video, let's review those and see how right or wrong I was. These videos are always a ton of fun for me because honestly, if you look at the economists that are making similar predictions, most of them are pretty wildly off. So it makes me feel a little bit better knowing that, well, even if I'm off, that's okay. If you don't already know, my name's Alex Dunbar and I'm a realtor who services Surrey, Langley, and the rest of the Fraser Valley here in BC. So the predictions that I made last year and that I'm reviewing are based primarily on this market, but also partially on the Canadian market as a whole. So let's get right into it and see how we did on our first prediction, which was interest rates. So starting us off, I'm going to touch on interest rates, and I believe that we're going to see the first rate cut in either March or April. I believe the first one will probably just be a quarter point, and then after that, I think the total for the entire year is going to be 75 basis points. So unfortunately with this one, I was wrong, but I do remember saying in this video that I'd be happy to be wrong if the cuts were actually greater, because that would likely be a positive sign for the real estate market. So first of all, the first cut was actually in June, and the total amount of cuts wasn't 0.75%, it was actually 1.75%. So while I predicted that the overnight rate would be 4.25% by the end of the year, it's actually currently at 3.25%, which puts most variable rate mortgages at around 4.5% right now. So as I said, honestly, I'm pretty happy to be wrong about this one, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out over the next year or so. And moving on to prediction number 2, that was in regards to fixed interest rates. So let's take a look. And so for my second prediction, I believe that by the end of the year, fixed rates are going to be somewhere in the 4 to 4.5% range. So this one I actually got right, and something to keep in mind if you don't already know is that when the Bank of Canada lowers interest rates, this doesn't directly impact fixed rates and is actually tied to bond yields. So just because interest rates are going down doesn't necessarily mean that fixed rates are coming down also. Currently, for an insured fixed rate mortgage, you can get somewhere between 4.1 to 4.4%, and for a conventional loan, which is over 20%, it's closer to 4.3 to 4.5%. So honestly, I gotta give it to myself here, absolutely nailed this one. And moving on to prediction number 3, that's in regards to inventory levels. Now, in terms of inventory, I believe that it will be higher than it was in 2023. So once again, we absolutely nailed this one, as inventory was up 20.6% this year compared to last year, from about 29,000 listings to over 35,000 listings. And honestly, I feel like this one was a pretty easy prediction. Maybe I could have actually tried to estimate where that number was going to be at the end of the year, but hey, at the end of the day, I'm happy with it. And then moving on to prediction number 4, that's in regards to sales volume. And so that is prediction number 4, that we're going to see more sales than last year. So I'm actually a little bit surprised at this one, which I ended up getting wrong. So sales numbers were almost directly in line with how they were last year. They were actually down 1% as a whole, but I would have thought that there would have actually been more sales last year. So for clarity, there was 14,713 sales the previous year and 14,570 sales this past year. But that was only a difference of 143 sales. So honestly, I definitely expected there to be more. This one was a little surprising to me. And moving on to prediction number 5, that was in regards to prices in the rental market. Now, moving on to my 5th prediction, it's going to be on rental prices. So I do believe that there will be a slight increase in rental prices by the end of the year. So once again, unfortunately, we got this one wrong, and honestly, pretty badly. I expected rental prices would be up slightly, nothing significant, but we actually ended up seeing somewhere between an 8 to 10% decline in prices on average, but it really varied based on the property type and location. However, this 8 to 10% range is a pretty good general summary. And so there's actually a couple of reasons that I give credit for this that I want to quickly go over. One of those being that Canada has reduced its permanent resident intake. They've also capped study permits, which is reducing the total number of international students students, who the majority of are obviously renters. So this is causing less pressure on the rental market. Another thing is the alterations they've made to the temporary foreign worker program, which again is just reducing the number of people coming to Canada. There are a few other things as well, but broadly summarized, they're essentially trying to decrease the levels of immigration. Now, moving on to a bit of a bonus prediction, it was how the banning of short-term rentals would impact hotel prices. Now, the government went out and implemented some new policies to try and prevent people from having Airbnbs unless it's in their primary residence. But what I do think will happen here is that hotel prices will go through the roof, even higher than they already are. Bingo, we're back on the right track here. As you can see, this graph on the screen is that hotel prices in Vancouver are up on average 25%, in Victoria up 45%, and then in Kelowna up 28% with the banning of short-term rentals. Now, in comparison to some other cities such as Whistler, where they still have short-term rentals, and Whistler actually got an exemption, but you can see how hotel prices were impacted differently. So I'm sure some people will say, well, hey, this has actually had a positive impact on the rental market, but I honestly don't think it's had as much of an impact as most people might think. All it's really done, in my opinion, is had a negative impact on other aspects of these cities. For instance, very clear example, I'm going on a bachelor party for a friend of mine this summer with 20 guys, and we wanted to go to Kelowna, but because of how high the prices were when we tried to get accommodations, due to the fact that there essentially is nowhere where we could actually get a nice large Airbnb to house everyone without spending an extravagant amount of money, we actually chose to go to Whistler instead. Now, that's taking money out of the local economy in Kelowna, and there are many articles showing how much this has impacted small local businesses. So honestly, I hope they come up with a better solution to this. I don't know what that is, but personally, I've heard more negative responses than positive ones, and especially from those who are looking to travel within the province itself, take their family on short vacations, whether that's to Kelowna or the Sunshine Coast or any of these other local vacation spots. I personally know families that have been going to the same Airbnb for years, and now that it's no longer running because of these new laws, they're having to find a new vacation spot, and that was a staple in their yearly family planning. But hey, I guess we'll just have to see how it all plays out. And then moving on to, of course, the biggest prediction of all, and that's in regards to home prices. And then moving on to my final prediction, which probably everyone's waiting for, it's in regards to prices. So by year end, I believe we'll have very similar results as we saw this year, with an increase in detached home prices by 6% and an increase in attached prices, so condos and townhomes, by about 4%. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see prices slide a little bit lower over the first couple months of the year. But as soon as we get into the spring market, and especially if we see a decrease in interest rates at the same period of time, I think this is going to cause the market to start trending back upward. All right, so I'm going to say that I get half a point here. What I was wrong about is when the market picked up and when prices were going up, and then when they were going down, I actually got that reversed, because the first half of the year is when we actually saw price increases, and then towards the latter half of the year is where we actually saw prices fall a little bit. And so I took a couple of different metrics for prices just to show you that they're all quite similar, and I'm not trying to twist or cherry pick numbers by any means. But first of all, we're going to look at median prices in December of 2024 versus December of 2023. So in the Fraser Valley, detached prices were up 1.6% year over year, from 1.42 million to 1.443 million. Townhome prices were up 1.2% from 825,000 to 835,000, and condos were up the highest in this category, up 2.5% from 522,000 to 535,000. Now, if we're looking at average prices, which isn't necessarily always my favorite indicator, as you can have higher priced homes that really pull that number upwards, or vice versa with really low priced ones, but usually it's on the high end that it actually ends up pulling it higher. So we saw a 0.2% increase in the detached market, from 1.525 million to 1.528 million, up 2.5% in the townhome market, from 831,000 to 851,000, and condos were up 2.3%, so very similar, up from 546,000 to 558,000. Now, if we take the rolling 12 months average, which essentially what we do is we combine all the numbers from the previous 12 months and then you compare it to 1 year prior, again, the numbers are quite similar. Some people like this as a better indicator of the overall market for the year, as of course there's seasonality and other things that impact prices on a month-to-month basis, but detached prices were up 0.3% from 1.528 million to 1.533 million. Townhomes were up 2.5% from 834,000 to 853,000, and condos were up 2.3% from 546,000 to 558,000. So overall, home prices were slightly up, so I was right about them being up, however, not to the same extent that I expected. And actually, it was condos where we saw the greatest increase percentage-wise in prices, whereas detached was actually the lowest, and I thought that was going to be flipped. And make sure you stay tuned for my predictions this year to see what those are going to look like, because I think they're probably going to be quite similar to what I said last year, but you're just going to have to stick around and wait for the next video to find out. So there you have it, my review of my 2024 predictions. And honestly, as I said, I love doing these videos. They're super fun, but as a quick disclaimer, please do not take this as real estate or financial advice. This is just for fun and entertainment. But if you are interested in hearing what my predictions are for the 2025 market, and that video has already been posted, you're going to be able to find that right up here. If not, you'll just have to wait a couple more days. And as always, if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in the Surrey, Langley, or Fraser Valley real estate markets, and you'd like to have a personalized conversation based on your unique situation, you can scroll down and click the first link in the description to book a call with me at a time that works best for you. If you do like videos just like this one and want to see more in the future, as well as community tours across the Lower Mainland, I suggest you consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks so much for watching, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you in the next video.